Hi, this is Lisa from Question the Narrative. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It is Tuesday, the 12th of May, and I'm back here with Honey Golden. Honey, how are you today?
Good. I'm really good. Yesterday was crazy, but today feels more calm.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's crazy because what are you saying to me? Like what's happening from your perspective when you say crazy? Energy, things.
Energetically crazy. Lots of, and sounds rude, but lots of NPC insanity yesterday
Mm,
and
mm,
energetic stress. And a lot of it was coming from the lower timelines that are splitting away. And
mm-hmm.
I feel like the universe is pushing us. It's almost like a wave of energy that's being pushed. And yesterday was the big push, like the tsunami of the energy. And today it's like, oh, the seagulls are back and everything's calm. But today's the day that something usually happens. So you have the big push, and then the next day, something starts to happen and you start to see action. Yeah.
That's interesting because I feel it too, and it comes in different things. It comes in technology, which I think we're going to talk a lot about
Mhm.
today. And then it also comes with the wildlife because I'm here more in the country and I'm more connected with wildlife. And I hear the birds. The birds are really around me and they're really active. But then I have like cats here and cats that have now decided to stay on the property. And that's actually very good. They're very positive and very helpful. But my dog is really hyper and he couldn't calm down yesterday. He just could not find any moment of relax. He's like, and he sees something and there's something going on. So there's a lot of energy going on with animals. And I think you're right. There are things going on that are funny, but I'm finding it more in the tech side and the weather side. Like here, we once
Mhm.
again had really bad weather, felt like winter again, and lots of wind. Are you feeling that the winds are actually the true winds of change that are coming through this area?
Yeah. Totally. And I would say, I don't think it's been quite a week, but we actually had a huge amount of snowfall, like probably 3 feet in the
Oh,
mountains. And we
wow.
had snow here too, but it was only like, 3 or 4 inches. And then it just immediately melted. And it was in all these berms and everything because the wind was so crazy. And now today it's going to be almost 80 degrees.
Well, at least you're having every weather you possibly can have. But I
Oh,
guess
yeah.
you'd have a ski season that's really post ski season. So we'll see. So the
It's
weather
already
continues
melted.
to,
Yeah.
yeah. The weather just continues to be erratic and different. And that's good because we're shifting away from those normal weather patterns. So maybe that's a positive thing anyway. But let's
Mhm.
talk a little bit about all this technology stuff. You and I were both just saying before we got on that things didn't work, like the Zoom link doesn't work, or you can't get into a certain website, or things aren't functioning the same way. So things are funny that way. But I want to go into sort of the big picture tech, and I want to talk about tech and timelines. Let's talk about Cern, because Cern has been a very interesting thing. And we're all saying, here's this thing called a Hadron Collider, and they're searching for the God particle. And well, maybe they found it, maybe they didn't, but they've had all these different things. And they've been up and running and they take an enormous amount of energy. They take an enormous amount of water. And then they're on this particular ley line in Switzerland and France. That is like a portal. It's a true portal. So interesting how it happened there. Coincidence? Interesting. So let's talk about this. Let's ask this question first. First of all, people said that the Mayan calendar, the world would end or would transition away from where it was in 2012. CERN actually did something in 2012. Did CERN actually impact the timelines during that time?
Yet, no, it actually didn't. However, Another thing that popped in is that 2012 wasn't actually 2012.
Ah,
So,
okay.
according to the calendar, the Mayan calendar would be closer to the Ethiopian calendar. And I don't remember how much further behind that is, but it makes me wonder, was 2012 closer to 2020?
Hmm. Okay, so let's do that. Did CERN impact the time period that the Mayan calendar was saying was the end of this time, this period?
I get no, but I do get they tried.
They tried. Okay. What
Yeah.
has CERN been doing and have they impacted our timelines?
I don't get that they really can too much. They can in the immediate area. So in their immediate
Hmm.
area, they're kind of almost like putting people on a raft of like wonky time. So
Mm-hmm.
they're affecting the people there for sure. Um,
Mm.
which is
Okay.
interesting. And that actually ties into why it's like Switzerland is kind of an interesting place anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tied into that also.
So
And
what is
yeah,
Switzerland then? What role does Switzerland play in where we are in the world? Were they the head of the Rothschilds? Were they the head of something? What was going on in Switzerland?
they really wanted people to stay unaware there because they were hiding something there. And it does have to do with their money. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of like what I'm getting is like doors underground. So
Mm-hmm.
there's like a whole bunch of compartments underground where they were hiding different things. And a lot
Okay.
of it had to do with frequency. So
Huh.
CERN is really affecting those frequencies and then the immediate area of
Okay.
Switzerland. But we affect so much that they couldn't really go too much further out.
Wow. Okay. Very, very interesting. But they're on these ley lines. Are they on a portal, actually?
Yeah, they're on a portal. And it has something to do with the grays, actually.
So the grays were, in fact, supposedly something to do with our timelines. Are they, the grays, they're us in the future
Yeah,
on a
they
particular
were,
timeline?
yeah, on a particular timeline. They were us. Um, basically, an Earth that allowed tech to just like they allowed themselves to integrate with tech and they
Yeah,
kept messing with themselves to the point where they couldn't have babies anymore.
right. So that's interesting. So in a way, were the grays the ones who actually created CERN so they could go and impact and change the timeline for themselves to change who they were?
I get that they had help with it, but yeah, they were involved. They weren't in charge, but the portal is like part of their one of their entrance points is what it feels like.
Hmm. Okay, so there's something going on there still. Did CERN find this what they thought was the God particle? Was that the Anunnaki project of trying to find the spark of light?
I think they wanted to find some kind of particle that they could actually shift themselves backward in time, but they
Mm-hmm.
didn't. And probably a lot of it was that they couldn't believe that they could do it,
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
which interferes tremendously with everything. If you
Mhm.
don't believe it can happen, then it won't happen. And I don't
Right.
feel like they believed that it was possible. So it didn't happen. There's something about China that keeps popping in too. Um,
Okay.
that China there's another portal there, and I feel like some of the Chinese people got interfered with as well, like on a really pretty big level.
Oh, interesting. So does
Yeah.
that impact, as we've been talking about, the population of China is not what people are saying. It's not 1.5 billion.
Mm-mm.
Did did CERN impact the population of China significantly?
I get yes. So anybody that had a child disappear, it was their decision. It was part of the Greys' inspiration to actually not allow as many children to be born because they were also doing something else, some sort of experiment. And
They were doing
another
the
thing
one
that
child
popped in,
policy.
yeah, the one child policy. And then I don't remember, I think they were the Taoists. I can't remember exactly, but they had been like incarcerated and they were doing really horrible things to them. So I can't
Wow.
remember. It was a certain religion and it wasn't the communist religion, and they took those people and put them in jail.
The I forget the name of it, starts with an F, the Feng One Y. They took all these it was
Yeah.
a religion, it was a very spiritual people, and they've been harvesting their organs, they've abducted them. So that's who they stole. That's who they
Yeah.
took away.
And they had a better frequency, you know. Those
Yeah.
those people
Yeah.
had a better frequency and they wanted their matter, their energy.
Ah, okay,
Yeah,
okay, yeah, okay. I'm sorry, I forget the name of it. It'll
I
probably
am
pop up
too.
with you,
I
but I
know it's
know it.
not. Yeah.
But that is exactly correct. They were very high frequency, a group of people, beautiful
Mhm.
spiritual people, and you're right, they were abused.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. So this was fairly recent, very interesting. So China was impacted by that, and but China has always been sort of subjected to enormous amount of experimentation, right? So very interesting. Oh, that's fascinating with CERN. Is there with CERN, are they actually using the tech for the negative now, or has that been taken over? Has that been taken back?
I feel like it's been shut down for a long time. So people in slower timelines still see that it's like working.
Right.
Um,
Functioning.
but I don't see that it's actually working anymore. So, and probably hasn't been for like several years.
Very interesting. And was the tech given, so did the Greys give the tech to humanity, or was there someone else who did?
It feels like the grays, but also something else was coming in. Probably part of those big beings. It was stolen tech as well. So
Hmm.
probably more like Anunnaki.
The Anunnaki, yeah, because they were trying to do that. Hmm. So how did so with the Anunnaki came in, and we were talking about this on the live last week. So the Anunnaki came in and they manipulated the vessel that we were in. But did we always have the spark of life, the spark of divinity in us from the inception of humanity?
And so did they, you know.
And what did they do with it? Because it
Well,
seems
when
like they
they
don't.
came down, half of them like fell into the 3D because they were fourth density. So fourth density
Mhm.
is the bridge into fifth. So from third into fifth. And fourth density is very chaotic. And it's kind of like the place where you figure out who you are.
Yeah.
And a lot of them fell, and then the other group did not. And they've been fighting the whole time. And some of them have been outside of the dome. which doesn't exist
Mm.
anymore. The ice dome doesn't exist, but we still have a frequency that's like keeping the sky going, like a hologram. A lot of
Mhm.
people have been asking about that recently, but so some are beyond and some were within. And when you think about the Romans, the Tartarians, the Greeks, all of them were like relatives. All of us have been mixed in with the
Mhm.
Anunnaki bloodlines. Um, we've been a giant genetic experiment for hundreds of thousands of years. And we're now coming back to the original human. Yeah.
Very good. Very, very good. All right. So CERN is really not a concern right now, and it didn't impact these timelines. Let's talk about the timelines right now. How are the timelines working right now? And everybody talks about the split and they're feeling the split. Can you describe where we are right now and what we might be experiencing?
So think about what you think about as a person.
Hmm.
So for the audience, are you looking for what's going to be happening? I'm really freaked out about what's going to be happening. Or are you like, oh, I'm so glad that this stuff is coming to a head. I'm excited. I'm going to do my own thing, right? So are
Hmm.
you in love or are you in fear? Are you hoarding food, stressed out, thinking the government's going to attack you? Or are you really excited because you know New Earth is coming in? So there are
Hmm.
multiple timelines on each scenario, but they are splitting away from each other.
Yeah. So
And
let's
as the fear keeps splitting, that's the big
gonna
split.
get crazy. So let's take a real world example right now of something that they're trying to do again, the hantavirus. So they're trying to tell us that there's another virus that's out there that's going to, we need to make certain that we are putting on masks and we're gonna have to, go back home again and stop traveling and doing that. So how is that like so specifically on these timelines? What's going to be happening? You're saying there's a variety on this negative side or the fear side, and then there's a variety on this positive side. Where do you think it's going to come out with on both of these? How is this going to look?
Well, I think it's another test. So it's another looping test, like COVID was a test. And we're at
Hmm.
another junction point right now. So if you are scared of the hantavirus and you believe that it's real and you are preparing to sequester yourself in the house, or listening to the news constantly to figure out what's going to happen with the hantavirus, then
Hmm.
you're in the fear side.
100%.
And
Yeah.
if you're like, wow, the hantavirus, are they serious? What are they doing now?
Yes, of course.
Then you're in the love side and you're like, dude, like that's not real. And if you have ever lived outside of the city and you've had to deal with like mouse poop or rat poop or whatever it is, and you wear a mask because you don't want to breathe it in, you know that you're the only one that's going to get sick if you do breathe it in because it doesn't just spread around.
Yeah.
And the guy that had the fit on this is the funniest thing. So
Okay,
the
tell us.
the
Yeah.
guy on the boat who was having the fit about the hantavirus and was crying, he's like an influencer and he is in a green shirt. They had him
Hmm.
later in the same shirt talking about how sexy it was to have a vaccinated woman and then she goes gets boosted. She goes and gets boosted again. So I'm just like, okay.
Oh, that's
Um,
interesting.
yeah.
Wow. That's sort of like, it's sexy when you smoke. Right?
Yeah, it's like the influencers, you know that a
Yeah.
lot of them are under some sort of contract.
Yeah.
and they're there for a reason and they became so popular for a reason, just like the movie stars. We tend to
Mm.
think that influencers that have these enormous following are all self-created, and that's not
Mm.
really true. And even
Mm-mm-mm.
if they were self-created, they might have been boosted into that space so that they could influence, and approached later with, we're going to give you like 500 grand if you do this, if you play out
Yeah.
this storyline. So I feel like they're part of the minions, and that's being
Mm-hmm.
exposed right now too, because there's so many people that are like, what is he talking about? There's only one guy on some boat somewhere and the whole world is freaking out.
So essentially,
Please.
this test is not that hard, is what you're saying. Is like
It's
they're
not
making it
hard.
so clear, all of that, and
Yeah.
and this is this really comes down to it. So essentially, the timelines it's splitting apart. It's the fear love, which we're telling about, which is like go off and like we're visualizing what the new Earth is going to be like because we're in it, and at the end of the day, it really comes down to here's the last test. We're gonna check you out, but if you can't figure this one out, okay, that's fine. You go to you can redo this. Great. We can do that again. So the timelines are becoming more clear. And what you just said, though, is really, it's all about disclosure. And we're getting more and more disclosure about everything that's
Mhm.
going on out in the world. And people, now, this is where I think the timelines are interesting. Some people still don't want to hear what is the truth. And so there are varying degrees of where that is. And then, particularly, so we should go into what's going on with UFOs. And I think we started talking about that last week as well. Um, this whole idea of um, how difficult it is to create that narrative about what it is. So, what are we going to hear about the disclosure about the UFOs and about non-terrestrial species? How is that going to be part of this timeline unraveling?
I think they're seeding it right now. So people that are in fear most of the time, they're going to be totally freaked out about UFOs and ETs.
Hmm.
They're not going to be interested in meeting an ET at the grocery store or walking into, like, passing them on the sidewalk. They're not going to be okay with that. And they've probably created all kinds of wacky scenarios in their head,
Yeah,
about how fearful that is. So instead, they just say that doesn't exist.
yeah,
That
exactly.
doesn't exist. We are the only ones that
Mm.
exist, which is ridiculous, really, to think that way. Um, so, and I'm sorry if that bothers somebody, but there's so much diversity,
Yeah.
you know, and just look at the human beings that are here. A lot of them look slightly different, depending on what
Mhm.
part of the planet you're standing on. So,
Exactly.
yeah, and the universe is vast, and the multiverse is even more vast because it's like different iterations of the same universe. So, we really have all these beautiful beings that are ready to be introduced to us. They're ready for change.
Yeah.
And they've been waiting a very long time. And I think it's time, and the White Hats know it's time. So they're seeding the consciousness. Who's ready for this?
Yeah.
You
And
know,
those who are ready, will there be an opening? I mean, I guess we'll just see things because when you're ready, your things are going to be happening. But there is all of this disclosure. There's so much of it. Like in terms of the healthcare stuff, people are realizing how things were being done. Things are shifting right now. We're seeing that hospitals are going to be told to be treating people differently. We're having so many things that are happening, which is very, very exciting, I think, on that front. So that's going to be another thing that's on this timeline and this disclosure path that we're on. Another part of the disclosure is that so our technology, they're talking about the internet. So we were told this story that Al Gore invented the internet, or a variety of Stanford PhDs invented the internet, that it was a communication tool for academics to be sharing, and then it spread. But there's something that came out recently that said that they found someone disclosed, who was under an NDA and had kind of thing, and they were working on that there is another internet that was core, that was a, the foundational one, and it's not available through any of commercial machines, commercial Wi-Fi. It's only done through certain machines, and it's only available to certain people, certain entities. Is that true? Is there a different internet? And I'm not talking the dark web either. I'm not talking the dark web.
It is true. And if you think about like the kaleidoscope of the multiverse, there's probably
Mhm.
several internets that actually
Mhm.
exist. Now
Mhm.
we're on a fairly surface level internet, um, but it's evolved so much. I mean, I remember
Mhm.
dial up when the internet first came out. We were so excited to get a home computer. Like I'm that age. And I was a grown up when that happened and hearing the little dial tone and all that stuff. And I think the computer had 200 megabytes or something in it. Like it was smaller than a flip phone,
Yeah.
as
But the
far as the
information that was
capacity.
on it,
Yeah.
yeah, the information that was available through it was the thing that was very, very, very limited on there.
Yeah.
So, but what you just said before, I think is really the core of it. It's like, so what they were saying was that that internet has all the information, like our library, the living library.
Mhm.
Is that actually the living library of Earth?
No, that internet is not the living library. It's the library that's been lost. So
Oh, okay.
think of the Vatican Library.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's what it comes in as. That's where a lot of information is stored. That's why they only share it with certain people, and they wanted to disclose that. So that's a white hat op to disclose that internet.
Interesting. So wait, so go back and let me see if I understand this, so maybe everybody else can understand this, is that you're saying that it is the lost information, or it is the information that's in the Vatican, in the Vatican.
Yeah, I mean it may not be all of it, but it's a lot of the information
Oh,
that
I
was
lost you.
basically
I can't hear you
stolen.
anymore.
Oh, you
Oh,
can't
I
hear
got you.
me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, do that.
Okay.
Say that one more time. I don't know if
Okay.
everybody else could hear. Maybe it was just me.
So, think about the Vatican Library. It's got hundreds of thousands of years of information in there, and they are exchanging that information on an internet that we don't have access to. Maybe not all of it, but a lot
Hmm.
of it. I'd say 75%. And
Interesting.
that's what
So
they're
that's
trying to
part of it.
disclose.
So that's where a lot of information, very, very interesting. So it's the Vatican stuff plus maybe some other stuff. It could be, it's not just the Vatican information, is what you're saying?
Well, the Vatican
Or mostly.
they stole the Library of Alexandria. So all of the ancient tech was in the Vatican, as far as information and even some of the tech itself.
Because they are
So,
saying specifically, oh, sorry, go ahead. I'm so
no,
sorry.
go ahead. Go ahead.
They said specifically that it was the patents, the energy patents
Mhm.
that are there.
Well, because they want that to come out first so that humanity becomes free. Because once energy is free, you can do whatever you want. It changes everything.
Yeah, it
So
changes
we
the
become a free
equation, right?
society. Yeah.
We will get to that energy part again. So let's go back to that. So that all of this information is on there and they're trying to disclose through this thing. Who created that internet?
So that would be like the Rothschilds, the 13 families created that internet and now they're disclosing it. Now I think there's still 25% of the information that is not on that internet either and is still hidden. Um, and probably doesn't get talked about in an electronic way.
Such as what kinds of things?
The deep magic of how the universe works. Yeah.
Mm. And who would have been the keeper of that knowledge?
It feels like some of it was in the Vatican Library and some of it was beyond the first ice wall. So the ice wall of Antarctica. Um, and they didn't even want the Rothschilds and them to be totally aware of it, even though they had possession of some of it. They didn't really know how it worked. They didn't know what it was. And part of it is that love was actually distorted by these beings, you know? Um, so it's like the vibration, they were frequencies that were hidden, it feels like more than anything else.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Very interesting. Huh. So we have all this information here on Earth or Gaia. Do other planets, other civilizations have the magic of the universe? Do they also have that information, or is it mostly kept here?
It's kept well, they're living it more. So they're
Not
living the
hidden.
magic of the universe. And
Aha, that's the
yeah,
real disclosure. Great.
so, right. And it's been hidden from humanity. Yeah. And it was hidden from the fourth density too.
So the
So,
Anunnaki didn't know it either, did they?
mm-mm.
So how did we get it here then?
It was always here. It's what comes in. So, a lot of the interdimensional beings, they know what it is and they live it. The ones that are in the fifth density, but still they've been living on Earth, in another like frequency. So it's more
Very.
of their really divine information that has
Hmm.
still been hidden. And the ones beyond the ice wall, they knew about it, but they couldn't like let go of enough of their junk, their trauma, their crazy behavior to actually utilize it because that would mean they had to change.
Hmm.
Interesting.
Hmm. Okay, very interesting. But they've evolved now, right? They've already ascended, correct?
Anybody that was going to ascend in the fourth density is already ascended. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Mhm.
Okay, so all of this information, so this internet, and it's the white hats that are doing it. So is that going to be the core of the disclosure of the things that we're supposed to know?
Going to be a big part of it. The core is, I mean, the first thing is the gross things. And I feel like we're right on the cusp of the gross things. And then they'll bring out good information pretty fast after that. But people
Hmm.
have to see that and say no, just like they have to see the hantavirus and say, whatever.
Thanks, but I already done
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh my gosh, that's very interesting. But you then said something about, so this internet thing is very interesting. So it's like it seemed like, oh, that's a little bit, but it's huge. It's not the dark web. You cannot access it through any commercial machine. You cannot get to it unless you have a particular access piece of equipment to do this. So very interesting. So I can't wait to hear more about that. But you started talking about something that was interesting, which is about the energy and how important energy is for us, for our sovereignty, for our freedom. And I want to put that into context because there is a lot of information about patents about free energy. I'm hearing a little bit more about energy, free energy, and nuclear fusion, that there's a company now that has fusion that's getting out there. So that's getting out into the marketplace. But I want to put this into context of what's going on in AI. So artificial intelligence, there's, I would call it the AI wars. It's not the Orion wars, it's the AI wars, where we have the big US tech companies and you have the Chinese companies and these AI models. And now the AI models are so sophisticated that they are able to shut down all of our systems. And this is why the government is working with Anthropic, OpenAI, Elon Musk's Grok, all of these different companies that have these AI models, because the AI model is more control, able to control more than government is now.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got this AI war, but they keep on saying, and this is the thing that I don't understand, and I question this, is that they say that these AI models take up so much energy, and we need these big data centers. And the data centers need enormous amount of land, and they need enormous amount of energy, and then they need enormous amount of water. What is going on with this narrative of data centers that are being built? And what are they? So let's start off with that. What is the narrative of the data center and what are they really?
Disclosure. So they're part of the 3D model of what AI would have been. So think about those big rooms where all those
The
huge
server
computers
rooms.
were. Yeah, server room.
Mhm.
Um, AI is basically can just be run by the ether. And they know that. And so it's like another scare event, you know. I watch a girl on TikTok who is fighting to not have a meadow taken over by this group that wants to put an AI, you know, complex in there.
Data center. Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So it's basically helping people become more sovereign, helping people see that we need other sources of energy, helping people conserve their water, have water in a different way, not let water be wasted. We don't actually need those things at all. I get it. They don't need to be used in any way, shape, or form. The tech is well beyond that already. So it's another disclosure point for them to show.
This is fascinating. This is fascinating because this all makes so much sense. Because you think about it, as you talk about it, if the ETs have all of this tech and they work with AI, and I'm hearing that they actually sometimes work with sentient AI, which is very positive AI, which is really at the end of the day, we always just have to be use our discernment to say which AI, because it's a reflection of us. But they're using it as they travel, and they're not having to have big data centers. They
No.
don't need to have enormous amount of water to cool that off.
Mm-mm.
Fascinating. So are they doing something with this enormous amount of land, enormous amount of energy, and enormous amount of ability to have data? Are they holding data of humanity in there for something?
I mean, yeah, but mostly it's for disclosure. So just like a huge Amazon, like, building.
Distribution center.
Yeah, distribution center, which has no windows, just like all these warehouses. No
Mm.
windows. It's like, ugh, gross, and you see it and it's huge and it takes over like 10 blocks, with its
Yeah.
parking lot and all of its junk. So all of these are the bloat of the 3D, I would call them. Like the
Oh,
way
that's
that the 3D
interesting.
operates.
Yeah.
And we have to see how gross it is to say no to it. So
Mm,
everything is being thrown in everybody's face right now about all the stuff that we don't like. And then we're going to be like, okay, we will allow free energy to come in. We're excited about it because we don't want nature to be ruined. We are okay with replicators coming into the home. We don't need
mm,
Amazon anymore. We don't need Chinese plastic anymore.
mm,
We can create our own plastic bags out of hemp or whatever,
mm.
you know,
You need other
things.
alternative
Yeah.
alternative materials.
To see
Yeah.
the ugly is to accept something better. And unfortunately, that's been the way of humanity. Get a shock, and then you're willing to look around at a better
Mhm.
alternative. And we're still moving out of that. Like, I don't think humanity is at the point where they're just like, oh, change is awesome. I'm so excited. Let's figure out what we can do next. No, we're still in the shock and awe period a little bit.
Yeah, no, so we have to have something that doesn't work in order for us to go to a change, which is really sort of the change agent. Now,
Yeah.
astrologically, we just left a Taurus position, which is very immovable, no change, and we're into, I think it's the Aries position where there's lots of change, and that's all it is. So this is perfect timing with the astrological conditions as well as what's going on. But this is fascinating on that. And that's really very exciting news. But let me ask another thing about the AI wars. Um, are governments afraid that AI is going to take their place?
No. I mean, unless there's people in the government that are afraid of that.
Mhm.
But they're probably getting replaced anyway.
So there you go. Yes, they fear it. They fear it in a way that's sort of a roundabout on
Yeah.
that. But this is fascinating. I'm so glad because there's just so much talk about data centers. So it has to be a big narrative on there and about energy. So fusion seems to be the first one that they're allowing out. Is that actually going to come into our purview? Are we going to have this fusion?
Not
What
very
are we going to
much.
have first? What are we going
I
to
feel
have
like we'll
first?
get back to the ether. So they will eventually just get back to the ether. And we'll also have little like contraptions in the home, that
Mhm.
have perpetual energy. Do they just constantly create energy? And people are actually inventing those right now. It's kind of funny, but people have them invented and they're just boxes. Even LifeWave that I use the patches, he's got a contraption that looks like a um, hourglass that he's creating that is going to be a free energy machine.
Mm.
So,
And there's
yeah, go ahead.
no keep going. So get so.
So we'll just keep getting more and more things that we can use. And I think in some countries, everybody will have something in their home that's like a little energy creator. And then they'll also have the ether. And then eventually everything will just run off the ether or the ground. You can generate electricity by sticking a copper wire in the ground.
That's what electroculture is. And
Yeah.
that's what really fuels the growth. And because we're all really upset now about the supply chain and how we're not able to get fertilizer. But the truth of the matter is that, as you said, a copper wire electroculture has been the way of
Mhm.
really helping plants grow rapidly. So quick one on this, on the energy, and then we'll go to another point. So are we going to be finally aware that we don't need jet fuel to fly?
Yes.
When? I'm so excited.
Oh, it feels really soon, actually.
Mm.
And it's going to
Mhm.
freak a lot of people out, and they're not going to want to fly. which
Mm-hmm.
is going to help with the trains, which go faster.
Right, which is a whole bunch of different things, which I'm so excited about. So excited about because right now our air infrastructure gets worse and worse and worse. So this is very
Terrible.
exciting.
Yeah.
It's fragile. Let's say, I would say fragile is what the whole thing is. Oh my goodness. So let's ask a one sort of political question. Right now, we're seeing Trump meet with supposed King George. I'm Charles, King Charles. I don't even know the king's name. And now he's going to see Xi Jinping. And we're shifting all of this around. What are we going to see right now in term? Are people going to start to understand what the alliances are that are going to be shifting on the global basis?
I think what we're seeing is, how he had his capitulation tour when it was
Hmm.
actually Trump, the real Trump back in 2017. I think we're
Hmm.
seeing a more like in your face version of that. And what they'll do is they'll say, this is what actually happened during those meetings. Because it's a loop, it's
Yeah.
another loop. And it's like
Yeah.
all the loops are meeting right now so they can explode, you
Wow.
know? That's why so many
And
things are happening at once.
And I think that's a lot of information because you're right. That capitulation tour was like, wow, wow, wow. It was very clear because there's so much going on. Well, there's definitely the Promethean Action Group does an amazing job at articulating what is actually happening with the British Empire falling apart, and
Mm.
that the largest country in the world was really the Commonwealth. And actually, Queen Elizabeth was, I mean, she was the one who kept the Commonwealth together, which really was the perpetrator. So we're seeing the dismantling of a global system to other systems. And actually, is it true? Well, that's the one last question. Is it true what how they're viewing it and how others are viewing it as the US and Russia coming together is one of the most important parts of this transition, global transition?
Yeah, because no one will be able to fight against that alliance. And it's already happened a long time
Mm,
ago, which is why
wow.
China joined in. That's what I'm getting. So
Mm.
China was like the third to join in. Um,
But as China doesn't have as much a population, it does in India. Is India as important geopolitically as China or?
no. And India has a massive amount of people that are not going forward. So they're splitting off.
Mm. Hmm.
And all the populations do, but India actually has a bigger population than China. Is it a billion people? No. Um, but it's very hard on them, because they're so squashed. And if I see a movie and I watch them drive around in India, I'm like, I'm not going. Forget it. It looks
Mm.
horrible. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like India will be pretty hollowed out. But a lot of countries will feel that way. But we do only have just over a billion people here
On the
right
planet.
now that are not holograms.
Wow. So we're
Yeah.
still at that level stage. I remember actually, I was in India a few times, and the first time I went there, we went up into Rajasthan, and you are just aware of the mass of humanity and how difficult it is, but what beautiful energy so many people had, just a beautiful soul. I really sort of fell in love with it. But the funny thing was, is I remember getting this beautiful coffee table book with amazing photographs. And in the photographs, there was not a single person. Now, a country that has that volume of people, how did they get those photographs without people, honey?
Because a lot of them are holograms. you know.
That's
And they're
fascinating because I've
also
always wondered that.
squashed. They're also
Yeah.
really squashed into certain areas, you know, just like the US, just like all the countries. Like you go on a train ride through Italy, which is how we traveled part of the time.
Hmm.
There's all kinds of emptiness, you know, all
Hmm.
these abandoned places, all this countryside that nobody lives in, and that's everywhere. So
Hmm.
the whole overpopulated thing is such a psyop.
It is such a psyop, but it's still like the particular places that they took the photographs from. Those were the places with a lot of people, like the tourism sites, the big buildings. I wonder, oh, I'll ask it then directly. Were those photographs taken before the reset or right after the reset?
Yeah, no, but they were earlier. And they also took them a little earlier in the day. But the photographer had the idea, I need these places to be empty.
Mm.
So
Okay,
here's
so
a
they really did
soul
that.
being saying, I need space. I don't want any people in there. Just like
Okay.
when I get into traffic and I'm like, NPCs, go home, have a nice
Mm.
day, but go away.
Okay.
It changes everything. So the intention was to have
That
nobody
that's
there.
beautiful. It was absolutely stunning and shocking because when you're assaulted with the massive humanity, it's such a shift on that. Now I'm going to try that idea because I need to do that as I go through immigration because I go back to the US for a couple days because we have so much fun now with the European rules. We'll see how that works.
Oh yeah.
I know I love to do that. All right, honey, I think we're sort of at the end, but I want to ask one question just because it was beautiful. I was able to see the Michael Jackson movie this weekend,
Mm.
and I love his music, and he's such a beautiful spirit. Can you tell us what if Michael really is around? Because he really had his music and his soul was so beautiful. He has so much light. I got the chills just hearing his music over again. I just loved it. Tell us a little something about Michael.
Is still around. I feel like he looks like he's about 60 at this point.
Mhm.
Um, he's pretty healthy, like really healthy. Um, he's coming back. I mean, that's why he's been highlighted so much. That's why people have realized that he didn't do the things that they said. That's, you
Mhm.
know, that's why this movie came out. And if you think about the movies, the Melania movie is basically a movie about how she's going to have a bigger role. But the movie with uh, JFK Jr. and
Mhm.
Caroline, that's because they're going to reemerge. Michael Jackson's going to reemerge. So you
Mm.
can see that those three people are going to be a big part of disclosure, and they're seeding the consciousness. And they're doing this all the time. The white hats are constantly seeding the consciousness to see the reaction. Are they
Mhm.
ready? Did people
Yeah.
embrace this movie? Are they excited? So
Oh,
then they know what the next step is.
I'm excited for Michael because I mean, I just like his music. Everything about him was childlike and loving. He was just a lot of light. And I
Yeah.
love that. I'm so happy to hear music that I know am not going to have a negative frequency on. It was beautiful. And he's
Mhm.
such a talented young man.
Oh, yeah.
Really.
Well,
I
and
think
if you
he
think,
actually,
oh, go
no,
ahead.
go ahead, go ahead. No, go
I
ahead.
think they're going to do the circuit, you know, like think about these three people coming back and think about the shows and stuff. Like
Mm.
they're going to be disclosing so much information.
Hmm. Yeah, I think with the Michael story, they are touching very lightly on child abuse and
Hmm.
how the father was and um how the music industry was soul crushing and taking your soul, really taking your
Yeah.
soul. in
Yep.
the use of everything. And that's going to be very, very, very interesting. So I'm very excited. Well, I loved it. I mean, was it the greatest piece of masterwork? No, but just like the music, it was very uplifting to hear his music. It was very, very
Yeah.
nice. Well,
Oh,
honey, that's all I have today. Is there anything else that you want to add before we close for the day?
I don't think so. I think everything is really as it should be right now. And I will be honest, I'm looking forward to more of the crazy energy, more of the chaos. I'm ready to see things split apart and to see change. So I'm embracing it, even if it's irritating to my body.
Yeah.
I'm like, bring it on. It's time. Let's just get it done.
Let's do it. I love that. I agree with that. That's wonderful. We've been doing it for a while. It's now time to have the baby.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
good. Well, this is Lisa from Question the Narrative with Honey Golden saying thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Love you guys.